I will tell everybody, do the work. Just do the work. You've got to go through the process. It's part of the journey. And some of it's painful, some of it's great. But, we might be on a high as a business, and everybody's high-fiving each other, and I'll laugh at them. And I said, man, that's a win, right? And I said, it'll pass, right? And we'll be at a super low, and everybody's compressed. And I said, man, that sucks. It'll pass, right? It's called the ebb and flow of life.
Yo, what up? Welcome back to the Jess Marshall podcast. Glad you're along for the ride. Have an awesome show today planned. Looking forward to this for quite some time. Having on a friend of mine by the name of T.W. Mock. He is the founder of TAD Recovery Services based here in Dallas-Fort Worth, but clients worldwide. Almost $40 billion of real estate assets under their managed care. He's a very inspiring individual. He's got an awesome story. I hope you enjoy the podcast, and we'll talk to you after. Can't hardly sit still for more than 10, 15 minutes before something's going dead or
we found
it's
out
crazy.
In, October last year that I'd broke my neck.
Damn.
Right? Well, I broke my neck in 10. And
it's crazy.
My lawyer I met my lawyer in Basra, Iraq, right? So he was a captain.
Wow.
Graduated 15% of his class at West Point, and then he left the military and put himself through Pepperdine, graduated USC.
Jeez.
Long story short, I've operated with him. Breached doors with him.
Yeah.
He says, oh, mate, that's when you got fucking shot in 2010. And I'm like, really? My wife is looking at me like, what? What's he talking about? I'm like, oh, well, you already opened that door, so go ahead and go down it. I'm like, it's on you. And he's like, I think I'm going to leave. And I said, no, sit your ass down.
Tell him the full story here.
Yeah. I said, go ahead and you tell her, because it's easier coming out of your mouth than mine. So just crazy shit.
Just took one
Took a sniper. I was pulling my plates off, and my plate, I was the only one left with plates on. We were in the Majnoon oil field, and I was pulling my plates up, and it literally hit me right at C4, C5, C6 is all jacked up.
Wow, damn, what the hell?
Yeah, knocked me face down. It just knocked the wind out of me then. I didn't think anything of it. And knocked, knocked my head. It was ringing.
Yeah.
Right, but, he got me from about a mile out. Luck shot, just straight luck shot.
Man.
But if I wouldn't have been pulling my plates off, he'd have got me in the neck. He'd have killed me.
God almighty.
Yeah, so you think about all of the gifts, right, that you've been given. No, I shouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah. No, that puts things in perspective when it's hard to make payroll or when you have an employee popping off. Maybe I shouldn't even be here. So let's be grateful for the things we have.
Well, I told that group yesterday up there in Minnesota, I said, look, just for me to be standing here is a blessing, right? So to kind of go down that road and gave him a quick synopsis of what was going on in my world and how I got to where I'm at right now. And I said, I've been blown up, shot. We could go through this. 9 years in the Middle East, you get it. And I said, for me to just be standing here, I said, I wake up every morning thankful and grateful.
Yeah.
Right? Over a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And then I get up, and then the rest of the shit's on me.
Is that what's your morning routine?
That is it. I
get up.
I usually have a cup of coffee and a bottle of water, and then usually I row about 3,000 to 5,000 meters.
Yeah.
On my Concept 2, and then I don't really hit the weights anymore.
Yeah.
Just my neck's all. But I'm just making excuses, right? I'm being a little bitch. But anyway, I'm 52. I don't really want to put in the work anymore like that.
I feel you.
And but no, and then I usually that spins my head up. That takes about an hour to get me through all of that process, and then. By that time, the blood's flowing, and when I got sick in last year, I moved from my office to my pool house because I had 2 white blood cells left. So I was extremely susceptible to cold. Anything could kill me at that point. So I lived in a bubble for a minute, and I've never gone back to my office since.
Really?
Yeah, our office now, we've got 4. That building you were at?
Yeah.
All of them now.
Good for
so
you.
The whole that whole complex now is ours.
It's all yours.
But every single office is full with people. So we've just got a small army and team of people. And
that's awesome.
For me, it's easier when I'm not in the weeds.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it keeps me focused on my targets.
Yeah, you lose perspective, right? They lose the forest for the trees is a good cliche when you get down in there. Yeah. It's hard to stay up here, though. Especially for some of us younger guys.
Well, it's control, though. In micromanagement, some guys think that they need to micromanage their company, and if they do, then they've got the wrong team, right? And I'll talk about team a lot because that's the only reason I'm sitting here today is because of my team. So at the end of the day, you trust but verify, and you hold them accountable, and then you make sure your SOPs are true and correct, and you move. So it just makes it very, very easy, meaning that I don't micromanage the process, if you will, with our team. I micromanage the SOPs from the leadership in the company, and then I talk to 3 individuals in the company, and that's it. If I talk to anybody else in the company, it's about, hey, man, how's your kids doing?
Sure.
Hey, man, what are you doing this weekend? Are y'all going on vacation this summer? They say, hey, what do I need to do today? I said, man, I don't know. I couldn't tell you because I don't run that side of the company. But it just comes down to delegation, and then that's, you're putting the company in a scalable position at that point because you've got the right leadership in place and you've got the right SOPs in place.
When did you master or get comfortable with delegating? How old were you, do you think? What stage in your career were you? Yeah.
I was 40-ish. It started turning.
Because you're a type A.
I am. Yeah.
So if it needs to be done and you're lagging, then I'm going to get in there and do it for you type.
Yeah, but I've got a theory. If I've got to pick up the slack and I've got to do it for my team and I'm paying somebody to do that because everybody in our company is on a salary basis for the most part, and they get paid a tremendous amount of money. We overpay by double in the industry for the right people. And the flip side to that is if I have to do it, that means I don't need you to do it, right? But I'm also cautioning everybody. We got to a place in our business where I didn't have anybody in here, right? We had a very small group, small team, but we're able to scale because we just understand the process and we're lethal. So if I'm handling it, then it becomes a very quick and frictionless process. If everybody else is handling it, there's all kind of friction involved. So that tells me how they manage relationships and people.
Yeah.
So I said that's a scorecard, and I'm keeping score. Mm-hmm. So be careful.
When you started to round into form and you started to get comfortable delegating and see that it was working, as part of getting comfortable with it, it actually is getting done. Maybe it's not done 100% the way I would do it, but it's 85 to 90% there. That's gonna get us going. Were there times when you had to take a step back when you saw something deteriorating, a situation, you said, I got to let this person fail so that they learn and they fail forward and they grow? And was that hard for you?
It was to a degree because, especially with my partner. So my son, he's 27. Our son, my wife and I's son, is 27. He owns 49% of the company, right? So he comes in there and he follows the leadership and he follows my path, if you will. But he'll get in there and make decisions. But he's had to grow into that spot. Now, does he understand everything about business? No, right? Do I? No. Right. That's why we have very good people around us to kind of navigate. I mean, look, the business landscape is changing daily. So my point is that guys are going to make mistakes, but I manage my expectations on the front end. So I manage their expectations as well. We know we're going to fail. I know that. It's a given. New truck, new car, right? Somebody going to door ding it. Same thing happens in business. Yep. You're going to trip yourself. Mm-hmm. It always happens. Somebody on the team is going to drop the boat. Or drop the pencil or whatever you want to call it, and that's going to have a butterfly effect in the business. So, you just manage those expectations. Don't let it get emotional, right? Get in the solutions business, you'll stay in the money business, and I always tell everybody that. So there's a solution to every problem. De-escalation is the quickest way to do it. I always talk about the art of war, right? There's a reason why things de-escalate quickly in my life. There's a reason why we don't sue everybody in the world and they don't sue us. I'll de-escalate it and get to a solution quickly. Now, if I'm principled, and that's a fault. It's a bad leadership trait. If I'm principled and I am right and somebody's trying to take, I'll spend $10 million to fight over 1,000, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Why, in your opinion, is that a bad leadership trait? Just because in business it needs to stay about business, and when principle enters, emotions enter?
There you go.
Yeah.
That's it. And just take emotion out of the equation in business. Just take it out.
You're supposed,
it's not emotional.
It's hard, especially when your business is like another child.
Well, every business is, but I mean, at the end of the day, when I make decisions about the business, it's the same way that I would make a decision about my kids, right? What's in the best interest of them, not me, right? It's no longer about me. It's about the business. And people get very hung up on their own Kool-Aid, and they think that, oh, well, this is me. I did this. You know what? I didn't do this.
Yeah.
I may have put the ground pressure in to kick it off the ground, but the team's picked it up and run with it. And that's what matters to me. So to get them to understand when I get leadership in the company and And I love to send out little questions, right, about leadership, and I love to see the response, because it's a test, right? I want to see where everybody stands. But when they come back and it's very individualized, I usually drag that person aside and say, hey, talk about this real quick. You realize that you can't do this without them, and they can't do this without you. Understand how this works. If we're rowing on one side of the canoe, it's going to sit here and do this.
Yeah.
And what is that? That's the definition of insanity.
Yep.
You're going in the same. I said, let me show you how to develop and change the way you think about things. It's all mindset. But your team is invaluable, and if you think you can do it alone, there's the door. Go do it alone, because you won't last 5 minutes.
No doubt.
So it's interesting for the civilian population to carry that mindset, because they don't understand it. We live in an individualized society.
Yeah, everyone has their own brand now, right? Social media has made it that way.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their own brand. Everyone's brand they put out there, for the most part, just a highlight reel, which means it's fake. Very few people are on there going, fighting through some low times with the old lady, fighting off a divorce. There's very little reality on there. It's a highlight reel. And so and then there are these other external forces from the mainstream media or from politicians that are just always looking to just fraction and fracture everyone apart from everyone else.
Well, look, man, divide and conquer.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
United we stand, divided we fall.
That's right.
That's how this works.
Yep.
And I've seen it over and over and over and over in my 52 years, especially in the war business. You want to kill a bunch of folks, divide them up.
How did you get into that business? How did you find yourself overseas doing contract work in the construction industry and the rebuilding?
It was a crazy experience.
Yeah.
I sold my first company and basically set us up. I thought we were going to be just fine, and ultimately I misjudged that by about a country mile.
What kind of company was it?
We built data centers. So we got into data centers before data was cool, and we built them in closets, right?
Very
and ultimately, that grew into a massive company. I say massive at the time, but it was massive to me, and I was young. So I was the 2 Ferrari owning, MTV house cribs guy.
Yeah, there you go.
I had to prove to everybody in the world that I'd made it.
Sure.
Right. The reality was I was 45 days from bankruptcy. That was the reality.
Yeah.
I was that idiot. Right. So, it's now, I've learned paying the dumb tax. Right. But ultimately, I remember our son raced 16 years motocross right up to the pro level, and I was in Florida with him at his compound, and I got a call and said, hey man, you're literally 45 days from bankruptcy. And I'm like, how did this happen? How did we get here? Right? I didn't manage my life at that time. Everybody else did. I can't blame it on them. It was my fault. But long story short, a friend of mine called me from Baghdad and said, hey, you got to check this out. And it's the Wild Wild West. Jumped on a plane, flew to Baghdad, and 9 years later, 3 companies later, it's going to be chapter 5 through 19 or some shit in the book. So,
of the memoirs?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Man, what like that sounds badass. That sounds like a lot of fun. Obviously, you're away from the fam. That's got to suck.
It sucked.
I know you talk a lot about that. You had to go over there and you had to pay your dues, and that everyone was patient with you, and you're grateful, especially to your wife for that.
Absolutely.
That support. But I'm sure it was exciting to a degree for a while, or was the shine off the dime pretty quick?
No, I mean, the reality is when I came home in 16, to tell you how much of how codependent I became on that as an individual. I was lost when I came home. I didn't know who I needed to be. I didn't know what I needed to be. I was institutionalized to fighting all the time and dealing with massive compression. And I went from dealing with that to nothing, right, when I came home. So for me, I'd much rather been there than here. I didn't know where I needed to be. I didn't know who I was. It was a massive disconnect. To do it again, and I'm not a big guy on regret, but if I had to do it again, I would have probably done it a little slower, right, just so I didn't have such a hard transition when I came home. And then back that up to 2011. My wife and I went through a lot of compression in 11. I paid a lot of dumb tax in 2011, a lot of dumb tax. And my point to that is I left massive marks in my life, right, where everybody makes bad decisions emotional, and they literally have a direct impact on your life. I remember getting back overseas in my command and who I was dealing with, and I've never been MF'd by a couple of 3 stars in the world. But yeah, it's a brutal experience because you're sitting there and you clearly get it. You clearly get just how dumb you are, right? And at that point, when you're mission critical in these situations, you put a lot of folks at risk. Very selfish decisions, very individualized. So it was a big turning point for me, and it was probably one of the greatest things that happened in my relationship because it needed to get to its next level. And that's where I got it now. I mean, and we have, everybody looks at my cool kid trinkets, right? And they think that's success, man. I wake up with success every morning, right? And that's why I fly home every night, right? We've gotten to a point to where that's a reality for me, and that's just something that I choose to do. So I love my wife more than anything in the world. I love my kids, but without her, I don't want to do this. I just don't. I know it sounds really goofy coming from a guy like me, but
no, it's awesome.
You get to a place to where loving somebody is a given, but committed to them is a difference. And when I made that transition, it was a beautiful thing.
You've talked about team, how important team is. You just said it there again.
Yeah.
You have your nucleus, your home nucleus, where she's in your corner, and that makes everything possible.
Everything.
And you're proud of that fact.
Very, very proud of it.
And has it always been that way, that you've always understood the just extreme importance of a cohesive team, or has that been part of this dumb tax process?
It's been good for me. I'm in of course throughout the Middle East, everything offshore, you understood the dynamics of a team. Here, in the U.S., it was very individualized for me for a long time. And for her as well. I mean, I can't, I've had to put myself in her shoes and realize, how many times does somebody need to wake you up at night and middle of the night, you go a year, a month, whatever, and say, hey, we lost him. They're not coming home, or he's gone. I mean, in my son, my kids, not my daughter, but my son went through this, or our son went through this with her as well, and on a few occasions. And I mean, I can only imagine the selfishness because I needed that in my life, what I was doing to them. It took me a long time to look at the man in the mirror and like the man that he saw again. So even from all the rewards that would come from that side of the business, it was irrelevant. It truly was irrelevant. They say that money can buy you happiness. It can take the misery out of it, but it can't take the internal misery out of it. Right? The money's irrelevant in that equation. It really comes down to, do you even understand what you just did? Do you understand that your actions from X to X were so selfish because you needed that, but you were literally eating away at the core in your family? I didn't realize that. It took me coming home to figure it out. It was one of those moments in my life where it was like, wow, you've really been an idiot. Yeah, you've really been an idiot. Now, we did a lot of good stuff. Don't misunderstand that. But the flip side is that the cause and effect of collateral damage in all of that became my family. So, for me, it was very, you guys just don't get it. I'm over there doing this, and this. And they were like, yeah, it's irrelevant, right? It's truly irrelevant, because at the end of the day, without me, they just didn't understand the dynamics of it all.
Sure.
And nor did I, right? I was hunting a dollar. I was chasing a dollar, and then it became very purpose-driven. It changed for me in that environment where the purpose was greater than the dollar, right, because of what the missions were. And for me, that became an obligation, right, where that obligation literally outpowered my family, which was the primary obligation. So I lost sight of what my true purpose was and what my true team was, right? So I didn't want to let them down overseas, didn't want to let them down here. In my mind, providing financial overwatch for the family was my obligation. It really wasn't my obligation. It was about being home, being a dad, being a husband. So, and I always core that back to relationships because they matter to me. So if I can't take care of my wife, and meaning in a relationship, and I don't mean in a sexual way or financial way, I mean in a true relationship where it's not transactional, it's reciprocal, then the odds are you're not going to have any relationship worth a hill of beans. So, I focus on that relationship, and that's what matters to me, and the rest of them, rest of my relationships all follow suit. So you just massive respect for what I value, and I'm very principled on that. So it's taken me a long time to learn that.
And it seems like non-negotiable for you.
It's not.
That's just the way it is.
I just won't compromise my integrity. I have in the past, and it hadn't ended well.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. I don't like the look. It's not a good look, as I call it.
Right.
Right? The body damage is pretty heavy. And we've all paid that dumb tax. We've all made those stupid mistakes. But, who am I to judge any man? I'm not. I'm not that guy.
Do you think that it's fair to say that with the advent of like the guru, the entrepreneur mentor, all of that, that we've got a lot of people who try to go that route because they're looking for a shortcut, and that while coaching can compress the time between starting something and succeeding at it or getting to a goal, sometimes that dumb tax is actually it's as valuable as maybe some of the home runs you hit when you're young.
Look, I will tell everybody, do the work. Just do the work. You've got to go through the process. It's part of the journey. And some of it's painful, some of it's great. But, we might be on a high as a business, and everybody's high-fiving each other, and I'll laugh at them, and I said, man, that's a win, right? And I said, it'll pass, right? And we'll be at a super low, and everybody's compressed. And I said, man, that sucks. It'll pass, right? It's called the ebb and flow of life. Yeah. But it is about the journey. It's not about the end result. So my time now is more valuable than anything to me. So I love, it's priceless for that matter. Your time is priceless, meaning that making money is actually easy. Keeping it is somewhat of a challenge. But, at the end of the day, we can be in a rush to go where? Where are we going, right? I can tell you where we're all going at some point. Right. And when you're laying in the hospital bed, hopefully it's not, I want to go out in a ball of fire. I don't want to be the old man running around in a diaper. But, at the end of the day, I don't want to have a regret to say, I don't want more money. I want more time. So instead of changing the dynamics of racing to the end, I live life now. So I joke with my lawyer, and last year I was extremely sick. So that was a conversation, because whether or not I felt like that I was going to die or mentally, I felt like something was wrong. I knew something was severely wrong, but it was one of those things where I'm like, look, I've waited. I worked my ass off. I'm 7-day-a-week guy, and weekends are cute, that kind of thing, and I've always built my life around living. So I said, look, if I do pass away, this is what I do want, right? This is a celebration of a guy that lived, right? And then you lay it all out on the table when I'm gone, not when I'm here. Right, because at the end of the day, people will clearly get it when I'm gone. They won't get it when I'm alive. But understand that, I'll jump in my boat and go 150. To me, that's a good day, and I'm living. And if we decide to go to dinner in Miami, we go, that's living. And at the end of the day, I am just all about the experience and the people I experience it with. So it's, for me, it's part of the joy of success, if you will, but it's also showing people around us that, you can also balance marriage and life, family, and still have everything you want at the end of the day without sacrificing integrity and without sacrificing yourself, without stepping over a line and going down a road. You don't have to do that. You actually can do business right, and it's okay. And you can still win massively by just providing value. So, it's, for me, it's been a learning experience. I learn more now than I ever have. So I learn, and I say this to my son all the time. I'm like, you're as smart as you're ever going to be right now. Just know that. I said, I learn more every day about who I am, what I need to be. I'm just wake up better be a better human being. That's the objective. So, my lawyer was literally just barking at me a minute ago about, he's like, no, you give a lot. I don't understand it. And I have to dumb it down sometimes. And I love this guy. I mean, Eric is my ride or die for sure, but I give because I don't feel it. And I have to let him understand the dynamics. I say it like that because he looks at it from a monetary position. I look at it, man, is it that hard to get good service at a restaurant and leave $100 tip? No. You will impact somebody's life by doing that and change the dynamics and give them a little hope. Right? Where if it's a homeless guy and just simply reaching out and doing something that others won't, does it hurt you? No. Do you feel it? Not really. Right? If I give my time, that's something different. And at that time, I want to bring value to that time, that I'm giving and make it worth everybody's while. But money is easy. It's an easy concept once you embrace it, because it's not my purpose. Right? Now, yes, we collect money. We are a for-profit operation, so I don't want that to get twisted. But we collect it to give it, if that makes any sense. So it's a powerful statement because most don't even understand the dynamics.
It seems that way for sure. Oh, that's interesting. Do you feel like you've become more monetarily successful as you've been able to figure out this balance piece where you're living life, you're not working 7 days a week, you're not just hustle, grind every day, all day at the expense of your family and personal relationships, but you take that time, and as you've grown into being able to be more balanced, has that benefited you as a person, but also your bottom line as a businessman?
Well, yeah, I would say so. I mean, there comes time in moments in business. Now, we've not been in this restoration space very long, meaning 4.5 years or so. I mean, we've been in since 17, but our company has scaled massively quickly, and I historically don't like that. I don't like fast growth as bad growth, in my opinion. But we've been able to manage and hang on to the tail of the dragon, as I call it. So the balance side, I've always struggled with balance. I've never had this right. I'm not the guy to take lessons from on how to balance this. I wish
You're in good company, bro.
Sure. I wish my wife was sitting here because, by the grace of God, she has managed me, right? And I mean that because everybody looks at me as the success, and I look at her as the true success. I'm just the mouthpiece because she's the one that actually goat ropes me, if that makes any sense. Yeah. And I don't mean that with disrespect. I mean, she's the one person that will come in and say, you can't do that.
That's too much.
It's too much. Yeah. Like, scale it back a little bit, slow it down a little bit. I don't want you giving your time for this. I don't want you doing this. She's taught me how to balance. But actually, if I say that, one, she's taught me how to balance, but secondly, I've learned my desire to balance has become stronger, right? Because our relationship has gotten to new levels. I've never known what unconditional love looks like ever in my life. I do now.
That's awesome.
And that is one powerful moment that you probably as individuals, if you ever get that, you get it from your parents. I get it. Not like this. I mean, it's a statement in a position that's so strong that, I mean, there's nothing in this world that can knock me off my axis. Nothing, right? And it literally, and I ride with that confidence. And I think that's where it comes from, is from her, not from me.
And that didn't just develop on its own. It took all kinds of work and in being intentional and getting
Very
after
intentional.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and understand that we're 23 in. We're coming up on our 20th anniversary. I always get them wrong, so I keep everybody guessing, right? But we're renewing our vows this year.
Oh, good for you. Yeah, that's awesome.
In September, but it's turned into this epic event, and like you saw some of the that was it. Literally, I had Telemundo there. I had NBC.
Badass.
They were doing interviews with me. I had our wedding planning party was up doing photos and all this. So everything became very impromptu, right? It all just kind of worked out the way it should have. But at the end of the day, it's those epic moments where you were talking about the flash in the pan, the entrepreneurs. And I got a lot of pushback on a lot of things, right? Tired of seeing this, tired of seeing that. All I see is this and that. And I made some comments on social media. I said, look, I let everybody see what I want them to see. I'm an introvert by nature. Nobody's going to see my life the way I see my life.
Right.
I'm only going to let you see pieces of it. And I think that's the way it should always be. But I said, understand that this is also my reality. So be careful who you're shooting at.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a charter jet. This is my life.
Right.
Right? And I don't say that being bougie. Those are all tools.
Yeah.
Those are my tools.
Right.
So the way our company operates is we need those assets, right? Because we operate all over the country. So we've got to move quick, right? So we constantly get faster.
Well, the critic doesn't matter, like Teddy Roosevelt would say.
I always take that with a grain of salt, man.
100%.
Haters keep me out in the public. So that's good.
Yeah, I guess if they're talking about you, like Jerry Jones would say, any publicity is good publicity. So
to a degree, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of jealousy in this and this weird competition in this restoration business. I'm sure there is in other businesses as well. You just get maybe a broader swath of like different personalities in this business because the barrier to entry is near zero. So everybody can get into it. Whether or not they can stay in it is a real test and a real challenge. What attracted you to the restoration business?
Actually, it was an event down on St. John right? So literally going through some processes there and dealing with some of our stuff, and it basically actuated from a policy compliance standpoint, and I didn't have a clue what that was. So at that point, I educated myself on policy compliance, and that's where we ended up. I mean, our business is built around speed to market and protecting our clients. And by protecting our clients, it's generated revenue, a lot of it. So the flip side of that is our MSA programs, as they continue to expand. Now we're written into bank loan documents. We've been written into policies now. I mean, we're automating our sales cycle to the 10th degree, where a lot of folks in this industry don't even understand the dynamics of how to enter that, right? The carriers are coming to me. We do South American assets for AIG now. So I was in Mexico last year twice for them, and we got called into the power grid in Colombia in a conversation piece because AIG basically handles that situation as well. So, you know, we didn't actuate in that per se, but we certainly had conversations about going in and doing that. I'm saying that our reach and my appetite for risk is massive, and I would much rather operate in those worlds than operate in the residential side of the space, just because it's too emotional for me and it's too mundane. So I get caught up in those weeds, and I think I'm still somewhat of an adrenaline junkie and want that. I want that abstract. I want that compressive situation that nobody wants to deal with. I like that. I've monetized that a lot in my life. So I'm very good at that in those moments. So I'm not very good at this. I'm not very good at just, man, it's just to wake up, do this, just go through. I'm not good at that. I break down in that moment. Yeah. Keep it exciting, keep it compressive, keep me always risking, right?
Need that action.
I need that action. Yeah. So as long as I have risk and skin in the game, for me, it keeps me very dialed into the situation. If not, I'll tend to lose focus on it and I'll move on. So it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, that's back to that balance piece, right? Because if we're just always redlining and running on adrenaline, that's not sustainable.
No.
But man, I totally feel you. There's certainly an attraction to the conflict. You use the word compress a lot. I like that. I think I'm going to adopt that. A compressed situation is certainly right in my wheelhouse as well. So yeah, if there's something popping off, I'm not walking away. Neither are you. I'm walking right into that thing.
Look, they're running out, I'm running in. Yeah, that's how that works.
Did you know when you decided after selling the data company, but it not being maybe turning out exactly the way you thought, when you went overseas, did you know there's gonna be some hairy situations?
Man, I was a CNN watching fool. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And trust me, there were some moments in my life. It was the election. First time I was shot, I was leaving the green zone. It was, I think, 2008 during the election from Obama-Bush. And Obama was elected that night. And that's the first time that I got shot at and hit, right? My armored car got hit. And it was one of the most surreal conversations. I mean, this is how naive I was to the business. It sounded like rocks were hitting the side of my Suburban, up armored, that we bought from KBR and Chevy, right? Chevy doesn't up armor anything, so it's all aftermarket. It's not the way you want to roll around that environment. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So the situation quickly transferred to, what is that? I thought it was somebody throwing rocks on the car. No, that wasn't. So
shooting at you.
Yeah, they were shooting at us. So it was a rude awakening for me. And then, just like the D in this company, that was a gentleman I met on the Iranian border, and there's one other gentleman in this industry that's been on this particular cob that I found out by default, and we just started talking. I said, bullshit, and he's on up the food chain at SRS, and he said yes, and he started talking about it, and I said, what? When were you there? This is when I was there. And, we started going back and forth. And then I brought Daniel over, and we all sat at my house and just kind of BS'd about it. But the point is that there was some compression there. And in 2009, I went in there in 2010. I met this gentleman, the D in this company, in 2010. Hell, we got rocketed together, right? We got blown up together. That's how I met him. And now he's in this industry today. He's no longer with TAD, but he's still associated with TAD. But at a relationship level and in assistance level. But he got out of the military, immediately kind of swarmed around. Nobody wanted to hire him. He was working FedEx. He was just doing jobs and odds and ends because of PTSD issues and in a bunch of military. And I'm not calling him out. I'm just basically calling it like it is, because that led us down the road to the 501c that we're both a board member on, and helping prior service guys with PTSD and giving them something to hang on to and get them the resources to kind of move down the street. It's a real issue. So
no doubt.
And I embrace those guys. I embrace them because I understand it too. I've always compartmentalized my crap, right? And they didn't. They wore it on the sleeve. So for him in that situation, I was probably from here to the door, maybe from her, and she died and I lived. Man, that's how that worked. So and he worked on her to try to save her life. We couldn't get a medevac chopper in, and ultimately she passed away. But she'd been in country 2 days. So, yeah, you get where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
It tends to bond people in a way that people don't understand the relationship, and they never will, right? Because you're on the street and you're basically fighting to survive.
Yeah. So
something happens in those moments that it adheres you like epoxy to concrete. I mean, super glue to your skin. I mean, it just you tend to get in the solutions business. It's not always pretty. It's not always beautiful, right? It's pretty frictionable sometimes.
Yeah.
But the reality is that when you're family, you're family. It doesn't mean that you're blood. It just means you're family. It means I got you, or you got me, or however that needs to be. So, it's the same way with my lawyer. There are lawyers. So Eric is, love him to death, man, massive PTSD issues, right? We just kind of navigate that stuff. And I joke with him. I'm like, "Did you sleep last night?" He's like, "No, man, I'm having a hard time sleeping."
Yeah.
I'm like, "I get it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the charity called, and when did you start that?
Well, I didn't start it. I actually rolled up. It started, 2 years ago, and I was driving to my office, which you've been over to the buildings, and the 22 kill bus was at Buc-ee's, and I just drove by and I saw it, and I turned around, and I think I had $500, whatever, in my pocket, and I just knocked on the door and I said, "Hey, man, I just want to give you guys some gas money heading to Daytona. This would have been 20. This was right at COVID." So I got called in. March 5 onto the COVID task force with DOD, and just kind of did some supporting roles with them, and it kind of navigated some things in the DOD world. But I ultimately didn't go to Daytona. I was going to meet up with them, and they came back, and Joe came to me and he said, "Hey, I've got an idea. I want to do something different than 22. 22's having it. They were still a great organization, but he wanted to do something different." And I said, "Well, man, throw me your business plan. I mean, what do you got?" And so he came out in my shop, and at that time, I had a bunch of patio furniture out there and a big whiteboard, a big TV, and we sat out there and drew out a map on what this would look like. But I had to fix him first, and that's something I picked up on quickly, because he literally gives everything he has. And I said, in order to give, you have to have. So let me teach you a real quick business strategy on this. And so, we picked up supporting the foundation heavy and kicking that down the street. And I said, here's what I can do. I can help you financially, but I can't help you with my time, right? So I need you to do the work. And I said, in the process, I need you to understand the dynamics of what you need as an individual, right? And he's prior service. And I said, you've got to get your pipeline of finance sustainable, right? There's a baseline in here, and I call it keeping the lights on. You need X, Y, Z, and you need to make sure you create this much capital, and this is what's going to keep you satisfied and keeping your house stable. If your house is unstable, this house will never make it. And I basically walked him down that road. And last year, right before our Christmas break, because we closed the company down like 3 days before Christmas till like January 5th. And everybody's paid. I mean, everybody just go do your thing. And some years were better than others. Some years are massive bonus structures, and some years it's a business decision, right?
Sure.
And the numbers tell you how to make those decisions.
Oh, yeah.
But the flip side is we shut everybody down, and I got everybody in there, and we had a conversation to include him. And I said, I've watched one individual change in the last 2 years, right? But he changed the way he thought about things. He changed the way he approached things. And ultimately what that did for him is it gave him massive opportunity to move forward. So that was a beautiful thing. I mean, I've watched it with him. I've watched it with Daniel. I've watched it with a few other folks in my life. that understand the consistency wins the race, right? You've got to be at least in the fight if you're going to fight at all.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be in the game.
Yeah.
You're going to play rugby, you got to be in a match.
Yeah.
If you're not in a match, what are you doing? You planning on doing this, or you want to do this, or what is it? And I kind of said, get off the sidelines, get in the fight.
A lot of life spectators out here. People too afraid to get started on something, follow a dream, chase a goal, whatever. Mostly because they're afraid of failing. And you've mentioned it many times, paying the dumb tax. It's just if you're afraid of failing, you just need to go work at Home Depot, man.
Well, but I don't really shoot that down either. I think that there's a lot of folks that get in the entrepreneurial space that they think it's cool and sexy right now. They don't understand that.
Misinformed.
I'm very misinformed. And, I tell everybody, if you think it's easier on my side of the desk, come over here and get something. I'll trade with you any day of the week.
Doubt.
So, the guy that writes the check, they always think it's greener on that side, right? No, they don't understand the dynamics of, well, can't do this week. I got to make all this payroll or whatever, right? Can't do this, can't do that. And, they take it for granted, but also understand the difference of there's a reason why 3% of the world's population employ 97% of the world's population.
That's such a crazy stat, isn't it?
Those are facts.
That's nuts. That's crazy.
And then understand that out of that 3%, 50% of those folks won't make it.
Yep.
Right? So for you to
Those are staggering statistics that people don't realize.
And those are the statistics that carry the U.S. and global economy.
Yeah.
So don't get it twisted. It's not ExxonMobil. It's not Walmart.
No.
It's you and me
out
here pumping money back into the economy by carrying those folks through not carrying, but building a team atmosphere to where they can be fruitful. They bring it back into the economy.
Yep.
So, everybody gets it very twisted very quick. They think it is about bougie cars and in success. And success lies within watching a company actually blossom and the team actually win. You as the owner, you start winning by default.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why winners eat last or leaders eat last.
Yep.
That's a true statement.
100%.
So at the end of the day, I'm usually the last one at the food line, right?
Yep.
I'm the last one in fact, my company doesn't even pay me any money. I don't get paid to do what I do for my company. Right, I don't. It keeps a running balance for me. It always owes me money.
Yeah.
So, but I joke like that because I don't look at that. I'm a servant to my company, right? And I enjoy that. And by default, it's a massive. My exit strategy is a lot longer than that. My exit strategy is not now, right? I don't need it right now, and I don't want it right now. Actually, I don't want it right now. I don't want any income right now. So, meaning I don't need to win financially. So what I need to do is the company needs to grow, so we put everything back in. So do that to your 27-year-old partner. We put in about $9.5 million, almost $10 million back into our company last year. So you know what that looks like when you do a capital call. Hey, guy.
Yeah.
I'm 51. You're 49.
Right.
We need to throw in $1 million. So what does that mean? That means you owe $490,000.
Yeah.
That means I'm gonna shove in $510.
Right.
That's what that means.
Yeah.
And he's like, Dad, are you sure about this? And I'm like, are you sure about this? And he's like, well, you've never steered us wrong yet.
Yeah.
Right. I said, we're going to scale.
Yeah, man. As the captain of the ship, you don't have the luxury to have a bad day, and I'm sure you have them here and there, and I'm sure you take them in stride. But man, there's no room for that. Everyone's relying on you for direction, answers. Before we went on, you said sometimes people criticize you or question how quickly you make a decision. But you don't strike me as the type of person who sits on the fence very long. You're picking a direction and executing as quickly as possible.
Sitting on the fence is anxiety.
Yeah,
for
it's
me.
Horrible.
So, I up until last year, my historical pattern is I get up around 4:30 every day, and I'll do my daily routine, and then literally I'm in my office. My office now is my pool house, right? So when I got sick last year, I literally pulled everything out of that and moved into my pool house. But my point is that I do all my heavy compression before noon, right? And if it's the worst conversation I have to have, I do it right out of the gate.
Really?
Absolutely. I get it off my plate.
You don't let that fester and
I hate foreplay.
Stress you out.
No, I hate foreplay. Let's just get to it.
My brother. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So I just say, look, bad news doesn't get better with time.
No.
It just doesn't. So I just want to get it moving and then get in the solutions business quickly. right? And not something that needs to be this long drawn out process. And, you know, a lot of folks don't understand the dynamics of the art of war. They think it's about fighting. It's about not fighting for the most part, to dumb it down. And I said, pick your battles, you know, but anxiety for me is real. So I've disciplined myself early on in my life to literally get the worst conversations off the plate now. So I literally do that first thing out of the gate. But by noon, I've got to be moving, right? I've got to be up and moving around. I can't sit behind my computer all day like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll drive through, but if it's 12:30, 1 o'clock, man, I get antsy, right? And my attention to detail starts to dive. So I historically won't do high compression in the afternoon. I do high compression in the morning because my mind is clear and I deliver quickly and I block time out, right? I mean, I've got 15 minutes to deal with this and I deal with it. And I push myself into certain time constraints. And then literally I move on to the next and I move on to the next and I move on to the next and I move on to the next. It doesn't always happen like that. It sounds cool as I say it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've got to move this over to the task list for tomorrow, right? Because this isn't going to take me that much time, but I have a lot on my plate, so I'm moving this and this and this and just move things down the street. But it moves the needle. It moves the ball forward all the time.
You have a plan for the next day the night before every day.
Every day.
You're not waking up going, oh, whatever hits my phone first, I'll handle first. You got a plan, and it's all
Follow
about
the plan.
Do you think that that's one of the biggest mistakes that guys, doesn't matter what business they start, but let's stay on the restoration side of things. I know you were at Win the Storm a couple weeks ago. Lots of young dudes out there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody, I'm going to make my $1 million. I'm going to have a sales force of 200. I'm going to do this. We're going to go nationwide. You know, lots of big plans, lots of big dreams. Do you feel like the time management piece where, hey, tomorrow these 5 things have to be completed, they're my focus, anything else I'll deal with, and if I can, you know, reschedule that to another. Is that one of the bigger things you see? These guys, the house is on fire every day. They're running around putting out fires. They don't have enough good people working for them. They're trying to do everything, and they just get almost just caught up in the wash.
Well, I think there's man, that's a multitude of
Yeah, that was a lot.
That was a lot. So
I expect a 20-minute uninterrupted answer now.
Yeah, no, I would dumb it down to this. I would dumb it down to start with 1, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. And then number 2, greed is usually the underlying current for a lot of this. It's not necessarily achievement. So you get guys that want a 200-person salesman and, you know, they come out of that and you hear all the chatter about, man, I got screwed on this and that and the other thing. And I'm not drilling into the dynamics of any of that. What I am drilling into is the fact that if you can't manage and your infrastructure is not in place, you know, if you build it, they won't come. I promise you, if it's not straight. If your house isn't in order, you know, slow is fast, right? And believe it or not, you can make a good living in the restoration business from that $0 to $5 million guy with a small operation and not go out there with a 200. Managing 200 salesmen is like having 200 ex-wives.
I can't even imagine.
I can't imagine that.
That sounds to me like a recipe for alcoholism.
Well, I mean, we have a very common friend that is one of the biggest in the business, and him and I are close, and I'm pushing on him a lot. And I'm like, how do you do it? I mean, I would literally want to slit their throat.
I have no idea how he does it, man.
Well, but he's got delegation.
True story.
He's got great people in there that do that, and they get paid very well to do that. So, you know, with that being said, I mean, I understand the dynamics, but that's also been his life, right? He's managed massive teams.
True.
So he has that experience.
He's almost conditioned to that
very conditioned
lifestyle.
To it. And he understands it.
True.
Where me, I've not managed massive teams. So to me, it's abrasive. They're needy and just always wanting shit. And I'm like, go do shit. You know, go do something.
Yeah.
And, you know,
why are you talking to me, man?
Yeah, why?
Go close some deals.
Go do something. Yeah. So I'm always, and I say that a lot. I'm like, if you want something, give me something to push against and I'll push against it.
Yeah.
But bring value to the relationship. Right? Do I bring value to you? Do I take it away?
Yeah.
So I tell them, I'm like, look, if you want me to do something financially, what am I going to do it against? Mm-hmm. Is this socialism or is this capitalism?
Right.
Right? I choose capitalism.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like socialism.
No.
And I said, if you want socialism, then go to Home Depot.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm meaning that some people aren't conditioned to do this.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing. Understand the dynamics of the compression, the risk, the liabilities, the liabilities, the liabilities. I mean, they don't even think about that.
Well, don't you think it's true that there are a lot of people who think they want the freedom of I run my own thing, but they don't understand that, like we were saying before we went live, we eat what we kill. And if we're not out there killing, we're starving. And that is just the bottom line. And there's just some people, they might get into it and they're like, yeah, I got to have a day or two a week where all I have to do is scroll on Facebook, man. That's just how I'm wired.
Well,
you know?
but I mean, I heard something the other day that was kind of interesting because it correlated to me a lot. I can't sit and watch TV, right? If I'm not being productive, I have a problem. I get real antsy.
I hear you.
I start getting edgy, and my wife slowed me down. I mean, I got caught up on Yellowstone, right? But
There you go.
other than that, I mean, I'm not a big TV guy. I don't like wasting my time for non-productive environments. So if I were to get to a situation to where all I did is hit social media a few times a day, right, and I laid around the pool and ate bonbons, my life would be about 2 years long,
Yeah,
right, before I mentally imploded
no doubt.
and or I died. So my point to it is that a lot of these guys, they want it easy. Right, they're entitled. They just want to get to that place. They don't want to embrace the suck, as I call it.
Yep.
Right, this entrepreneurship will drag you in quickly because there's a lot of success right now in the market, and there's a lot of misinformation in the market. Right, there's a lot of folks saying, "Hey, look at me, I've got a bunch of glittery crap," and they don't. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
Lots of people running Ponzi schemes.
Man.
What amount to be Ponzi schemes? Yeah.
This fake it till you make it mentality, I've never understood it.
It's a tough deal, man. I mean, because we are our culture, our society is so it's just drawn to the shiny stuff. Look at two of the bigger stories floating around social media are about two people who ran Ponzi schemes in the last that Tinder swindler guy,
yeah,
and that Anna Delvey.
Yeah, we watched that whole thing on Netflix with my wife. Amazing. How did a 20-some-odd-year-old chick in New York
with nothing,
with absolutely nothing, walk into those people? And you know how hard that is to get through those doors?
Well, I mean, at least they portrayed her going after that attorney. She went after that guy until she nailed him down. Very talented gal. But it just shows how people just lose their mind if they think if something's too good to be true. That's
Probably
my
is.
first.
Look,
There's
man,
almost 99.9% of the time it is.
I've got a saying, and this comes from the war business, and trust but verify.
Yeah.
Always. Right. And it's not that I trust everybody. Even my lawyer says, "Man, you're too trusting." And I said, "Why wouldn't I be? Who do I not trust, me or them?" I said, at the end of the day, let them be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'll bet on that. I said, at the end of the day, I'm not betting on the horse, I'm betting on the jockey.
Right.
So if they can truly come in here and talk the talk, and if they can walk, then produce it. And if they can produce it, then I'll absolutely jump behind that 100%. Right? But at the end of the day, it doesn't work like, hey, here's a blank check. You go do this, and let me know how it works out. Right? That's not the way that works.
Yeah.
It goes out there and, hey, produce something, then you bet on something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you bring that attraction to your ability to produce. And then that becomes the nucleus. And that's the way that we run our company. I don't want to talk about it. I want to be about it, and I want to do it. So I'll historically do, and then I'll turn around and let the actions speak for themselves, and let that peel back and say, man, there's something a lot greater here than just a bunch of smoke and mirrors and talk, because I haven't really been talking in the industry. I don't really say
True.
much. I'm pretty quiet, and I have come into 22 with a whole new outlook on that. So
You just paint the side of the Omni before win the storm.
yeah, well, that's only
That's called a power move, brother.
well, understand
badass.
the power move that happened last year. We invested a lot in that.
Yeah.
Right, and zero ROI. So it's not that is not our captive audience. So not that it's right or wrong, it's the industry, and that's all we have in the industry. So yeah, somebody needs to certainly jump out there and put something else together. I'm just saying, no shot to Anthony, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that brings value. My play on that position was I wasn't spending a dime this year, right? On that, I would support it from a distance, right? And then I was a moderator out there with one, and I didn't even moderate. I spoke at the end in a very captive situation, because we really didn't have a place for both of us to be on that as a moderator because two completely different business models. We own our assets. We self-perform. We own our supply line. We're not brokers, right? So I don't go down that road, nor do I even support that behavior. I just don't, because at the end of the day, you end up getting hurt in the business world by doing that. So I do the same thing I did in the Middle East. I own it. So if I can't afford to invest in it, then I don't need to be doing it. And at the end of the day, people look at me as a juggernaut or look at our company as a juggernaut. Madly respected, though, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what they're going to get out of me. If I don't like it, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
If I do like it, I'll tell you. But if I do tell you that I'm going to go right, then I'll go right. And I deliver. If I tell you that I'm going to do it, sometimes it's ugly. It looks like the wheels fell off the truck, right? But I own it, too. I'll go fix it, right? I'll make it right, and we'll get through it. So I think all we have left in this business for the youngsters, back to your your earlier question, the guys that all come into this business thinking that they're going to go kill it, man, just do what you say and say what you do and deliver and let the rest do the rest. Speak for yourself, because your actions have a lot more depth than a quick word of saying I'm the greatest, right?
It almost sounds like you're saying consistency trumps that major push, the big shiny stuff, that consistency long term. And you've talked about having a long-term vision, which our mutual friend talks about a lot as well.
Long-term.
Because that long-term is lost on a lot of people now.
It is.
People my age, you got a few years on me, your age, and then obviously younger. But, I mean, there's people my age who do not have a long-term vision at all. And it's very odd.
But that's also why they're not achieving.
True. When they come to you and they want to achieve, maybe they want to change their life, change the way they do things, how important is culture to you? And I'm sure you don't do all the hiring now because your organization has many layers to it, but did it take you a while to understand that, man, this might be a wildly talented person, maybe even a superstar, but they don't fit culturally? Or did you take a chance on some of those guys or gals at the beginning and get burned and learn through that school of hard knocks, that dumb tax you've
I do a matrix that came out of the SEAL operations, right? And there's two matrix that go into that, and it's the delivery side, right? Aptitude in the field. And then there's a trust matrix, right? A lot of guys think that they would go off of aptitude because they're great at what they do, but there's some issues with trust. I will focus on the trust, and I'll focus on the ability and the learning ability of the individual.
Their ability to trust you or
No.
your ability to trust them?
Maybe they've got some character traits in them. Yeah. So that little conversation we were having before where let's just leave that information out. It won't hurt him. Still an issue, right? I don't like that stuff. You give me the wrong information, I'll kill the wrong person.
Yeah.
And I used to say that in the Middle East, and I say it here.
I mean, it's true.
It's true. I mean, you're the leader of the free world, and you're in your world, so am I. And you give me information, I'm making decision on what I see. If I can't trust my team to give me the right information, then I don't need my team. That's how that works. So, give me the right information, I will make the decision quickly based on the information I'm giving. So if I have a teammate in this that can deliver but doesn't quite give me the right information and wants to be manipulative in some way, no, he's out. He's gone quickly, right? I don't even support that behavior in the least, nor do I like it. And quite frankly, to me, it's a sign of disrespect. So that'll turn me upside down quickly.
Well, it's putting you in a hell of a position, especially if you got to go to bed the night before knowing you've got a compressed call to make the next day. And if that call is then based on not the full story,
that makes you look like an idiot.
that's not gonna.
I've been there.
Yeah,
I've had to do it here recently as well. Yeah, because our collections, I mean, it runs straight into legal, right? So lawyers engage it, and then when we're wrong, it's always tough to have to unscrew that, right? But we've made mistakes in that space. Which showed me that our system was broken because our checks and balances. So it's like the stove's hot, don't touch it, right? Your mom always to stay away from the stove.
that's right.
Right. Well, these are those places where you just find out that the stove's hot and you realize your system's broken, so it's an opportunity for us to fix it.
And do you see a lot of times when things go wrong, you see that as this is a real opportunity? We've identified a shortfall or a shortcoming in one of our systems and processes, and then every time something bad does happen, because I'm sure bad things still happen in your business.
Still do.
Your immediate response to that is, let's go shore up the system or the process so this doesn't happen again. Is that your first?
My first response is just want a risk analysis of how big the liability is, and then understanding the dynamics of the relationship, and understanding that I respect the relationships that I'm doing business with more than anything. So I will historically engage it, and I'll woo-saw it quickly, and I'll start making decisions, and whether that be financially or whether that be from reduction of pressure, whatever needs to happen, I'll listen to the client or listen to the situation and simply make decisions based on compression. And especially if we're in the wrong. If we're in the wrong, I'll back completely away from it, right? And I'll eat it, and I'll make the company eat it. And again, it hurts everybody, right? But
Sure.
that's that dumb tax. And I tell everybody that sucked, didn't it? Now, what's the takeaway?
Because we're winning together and we're
losing together.
learning together.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that, well, I don't want to do that again. Well, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, don't do that again then.
Let's not do it again.
Let's not do it again. Right. But you don't have very much in business. I mean, horsepower, capacity, financial capacity, whatever that is, you've got one thing that's consistent with all of us. If you can't give someone your word and follow through with it, look, you do a job, you expect to be paid for it. Right? I expect to be paid for it. If I'm not paid for it, I will go get my money. And we're real good at that. But at the end of the day, if I'm wrong and it's not, and we've hurt somebody and wronged somebody in some way, then I need to understand the dynamic so we can basically make that right. Whether it's on a project, whatever that situation is. I don't like just walking down the road, cutting everybody. It's not my MO. And it's kind of interesting to feed that culture back to our workplace now, because we do have a lot of young folks, right? I say younger folks. So if you take my son's demographics age and kind of go out through the company, 30s and 40s, right? Young, early 40s, mid 30s, 20s, mid 20s. They're not me. They don't think like me. And I also have to let them think on their own, but understand the dynamics of, I call him the principal, right? So you look at me and they say, he's not going to go for that. Well, then don't even try to sell it to me.
Right.
You just don't. What's he going to go for? And I've watched a turning curve in the company, and simply say, yeah, okay, he's going to go for this. And what they're doing is they're simply making decisions before I ever get involved.
Sure.
And it's getting cleaner.
Yeah.
Every day we're getting better, right? Every day we work to get better.
It sounds like your greatest asset at this company and at previous companies was not the equipment, was not the vehicles or the buildings or the real estate. It was the people.
People.
How hard is it to find good people? And have you noticed that the curve on that has changed in the last 2 years, or do you think that's a bunch of BS excuses? Or what are your thoughts kind of on, man, it's hard to find good people? I mean, restaurants aren't even open 7 days a week anymore because they can't get good people. There's just issues all over the place. It just seems like the real pandemic was more of a victim mindset setting in on so many than it was the China virus.
Man, I have seen, nothing surprises me anymore. How does that sound? Yeah. I mean, the victim mentality, that seems to be probably one of the single biggest curses that this country's been. Yeah, I say this country, this globe, meaning that the world in general today thinks everybody owes them something. Nobody owes me anything. I mean, they just don't, not unless they owe me money. But other than that, I mean, the only thing I ever asked for in life is just a little respect. And you don't have to give it to me, I'll earn it, right? But just other than that, people don't understand those dynamics. They think they're entitled to your respect. They think they're entitled to a stranger's respect. No, that stranger doesn't know you. We live in a world today where I tell my kids, no, don't engage a stranger, right? And they're both grown. Just don't do it. Don't do that. My wife, don't do that. Don't do this. Don't, just because the world has actually gotten pretty damn evil. Mm-hmm. And even here in the States, I mean, everybody thinks that, look at LA right now. If you're wildly successful and you're driving some Highline sports car, I mean, guys are getting robbed in Beverly Hills.
Pulled out of their car at the light.
Yeah, the Ferrari, right? I mean,
see that black
one.
Yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, it's insanity.
It's insanity, So, I don't, each is their own, right? I mean, but at the end of the day, in my world, that what makes them any better than, no, look, because you got hustle and you went out there and worked your ass off and you built something, that makes you wrong, right? I've literally had a kid on the flight line in Gulf Shores, flew in there after Sally, and this kid on the flight line said, man, you're pretty privileged. And I was walking to the plane, And I turned around, I said, what'd you say? And he said, you're privileged. And I said, dude, I worked my ass off for this.
No shit.
I said, don't even go down that road with me. And he said, man, you got your this and you got that and this. I said, do you understand what it takes to get here? You have any idea? I was you once, right? I was a kid in junior high that literally in special education, I was the kid that everybody talked down to. I was the kid that literally got beat on all the time, right? And then it changed for me. And it changed around 18, 19. And then my mindset changed. And then everything became, no, man, I'm just going to go out there and get it, right? It was not that I was an idiot. It's that I wasn't engaged, right? I was lazy, and I was just this entitled punk, in my opinion.
Where'd you grow up?
Between Austin and New Orleans.
The that mindset change at 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
What was that? Was that your dad? Was that a sports coach? Was that just you going, well?
It was my mom and my stepdad.
Okay.
Yeah, and my stepdad owned an offshore pipeline company. And I grew up in a world in New Orleans of, you know how it works over there.
Yep.
You're either extremely rich or you're poor.
Yes.
Middle class is struggles. But we grew up in a very, very wealthy family. And I grew up in the world of cars and jets and all of that crap. My dad, my biological dad here in Austin, he didn't have that. Now, he's wildly successful in his own right, but it was just two different dynamics of he's a working man, meaning that it doesn't matter how much he stacks. He still puts on his boots. He runs his cattle.
Sure.
And that he gets down, and that's how he works. My stepdad, 8th grade education, right? Literally damn near killed a man in Jacksonville. And then the judge gave him an opportunity. He had an 8th grade education. I want to start, I keep saying that.
Yeah.
And he had an opportunity to go to the Navy or go to prison. And he took the Navy. So this would have been 1956. Because he would have been 16. He was born in 40. And long story short, he got out of that. They put him through what was now BUDS, right? So he became an underwater demolitions expert. And basically he got out of that and he started commercially diving and then started his own company. And when he exited that company in 88, it was 200 million plus.
Wow.
Now, fast forward, they had a place in Montana. That's how I got ties back to Montana. And I was living in New Orleans at the time, Madisonville, in their house, and this is 1988. I want to go back to this time. I had a Barclays Gold card. I was 18. I got new cars every 6 months because I was destroying everything. I was a consumer, right? And I'm living in this mansion. I had a Gulf credit card, and I just partied. Like could have walked on to LSU, played basketball, could have done a number of things, had all this opportunity in front of me, and I decided to smoke weed and party at 18, right? And so I get this call from my mom, and I was a mama's boy at the time, and she goes, I need you to come to Montana. I need you to drive to Montana. And I'm like, drive? Like, that's hard. Okay. And I'm 18 now. So I get in my Mustang, and I drive to Montana, and I walk in the house, and they had this big place in Sula that they had just built, Montana, and south of Missoula. And she goes, hey, do you have your keys? And I said, yes. And I'm looking at it all strange, and she said, get your wallet out. She said, give my credit cards back. And I'm like, oh boy, like I'm going to have to negotiate this because they're pissed. My dad comes downstairs they're my stepdad. And he said, here's the keys to your Jeep truck and here's $200. Now get out. You'll never get another dime from me.
Wow.
And I lived on my brother's couch for about 2 weeks. And I said, this ain't going to work. So ultimately started building handcrafted log homes. Okay. And then ended up in South Korea at 20, building my first one. For myself, and then went on this massive run in Japan and built 8 of them over there.
Building log homes?
Building log homes. That's where all this started.
Really?
Yeah.
What got you over to South Korea to get the thing kicked off?
Nobody would go. And I said, I'll do it.
So there was an opportunity.
There was an opportunity.
But
I took it.
It was a little too dirty or hard for most?
Well, most didn't want to go because it was built on the back of, it was built right on the DMZ. It was built on the North Korean border.
No shit.
Yeah. Literally. Wow. Now, I've got the old photos at my house in a photo journal, but that was the first one that kicked it off.
Wow.
And then I went in and I met a gentleman that owned the Halzina Corporation in Japan. And when I was over there, and literally he said, hey, he asked me for my birthday and asked me for all this craziness. And I was like, what the hell is he doing? I didn't have a clue. Right. But, the Japanese, the way they do business, old school, is they do an astrological chart on you. So I got this yellow pages of my life. I mean, looked like the New York yellow pages phone book. That's fascinating. And long story short, they chose to do business with me.
It's like a cosmic background check?
It was crazy, man. I mean, he literally told me things in my life that were going to happen that I was like, oh, you're full of shit.
What the fuck?
Oh, no, crazy. But he was right. He was spot on. And he's been spot on all the way through my life. And, ultimately, under the Clinton administration, they've been imposing a luxury tax on log houses, so it's double the cost. So that shut that down, right? But long story short, and that's what took me to Houston. But the flip side is, he built this whole chart, and I remember I was 23 at the time and rocking and rolling, right? I was making $30,000 a month. I was 23 years old. That went from 20 to 23. I mean, that's a lot of money.
That is.
Right? So even today, it's good money.
You bet.
It's a lot of money. So I was leaving to come home, and he said, hey, be careful. When you go home, he's like, you should be getting into some major accident right now in your life. And I'm like, man, I don't believe in that crap. So don't even start with me. I went home and I would work, and then I was a ski bum. I lived in Tahoe at the time.
Okay.
And we were supposed to go hella skiing in the Rubies that day, and I could only have one seat. So my girlfriend that I was dating, and he literally, and this is later in life, but he told me that I won't be with the girl that I'm with. I'll be married twice. I'll have 2 kids. Right, I'm destined for all this craziness in my life. Wow. But it gets scary at the end. So anyway, I get through this whole situation. I go home, and we decided not to go hella skiing. I went skiing at Danny DeVito's new ski area, right? And I'm doing this bump run underneath the lift, and my fib tib snaps, right? And literally snapped in half like a 2x4, and broke 2 bones. Not a big deal. We didn't think it was a big deal, but then I had a fatty embolism and literally was in ICU. Basically, I was dead, right? So 7 days, I don't remember 7 days of my life. And I didn't have insurance, right? Craziness, young, stupid, making money, not taking care of business.
Yeah.
They thought I was going to be cool and
Indestructible, of
indestructible.
course. Yeah.
And long story short, it literally, I woke up, they called my parents. My dad was inbound from Texas. My mom's down from Montana. I came to about 45 minutes, an hour before she arrived, but they were getting no brain signal, so they needed someone to pull the plug, and my girlfriend couldn't do it. And I woke up, and I remember laying there in ICU, and I was watching. I was on a vent. You name it, I'm on it to keep me alive. And I remember watching. Kelly was her name, the nurse's name, blonde-headed chick, and she was sitting at the out on the nurse's station, and I was watching her with my eyes, right? And she noticed that I was tracking her. So she came in there, and I couldn't talk. So she brought a legal pad, and we just started chatting. So we chatted until my mom got there, and I just said, "What the hell happened?" And it just went down this long road of what actually happened to me. So, and then you fast forward 30 days after I got out of the hospital, I was back in Japan working. So they came in there and they said, "What do you have to achieve?" And so they put a rod between my knee to my ankle to basically support my bone, and my bones weren't even back together yet.
Wow.
So I had about a half an inch gap or so.
Jeez.
Right. So I had to walk the bones back together, and that's how all that went
That
down.
sounds comfortable.
No, it was determination because I was at a place in my life to where failure wasn't an option to me. And now I had all of this mountain of debt that I've never had in my life. I didn't understand how to manage it. So I just wanted to take care of it. So I'm in the middle of Japan, 35 days after this happened. And I get this call from my girlfriend, and she says, "Hey, an anonymous donor just paid your hospital bill off." And it was Hatare, the owner of Hausina Corporation in Japan. And he said, "I told you to be careful." So he started schooling me.
Crazy.
And shortly thereafter, my girlfriend left. When I got home, she was gone, cleaned out the house, she was done, right? And so kind of left me to my own devices at that point. And then fast forward, I married my son's mom, and we didn't last very long. That was just a very, very situational relationship. And then I met T, my wife now, and that just kind of blossomed from there. But long story short, that astrological chart ends at 52. I'm 52 today.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 52, January 1 is my birthday. So at some point this year, right, it was an interesting mind screw for me because everything has been pretty much on point with this.
Wow.
And now 52, it doesn't go past 52.
Do you still have it?
I do.
Wow. Is that gentleman still with us?
He is, yeah.
Crazy.
He's in Nagoya, Japan. Yeah.
He'd only run one on you if he wanted to do business with you?
That's how he did business.
That's
but he
incredible.
owned a massively successful company.
Yeah.
And I respected the hell out of him at that time. He was one of my early business mentors, and then And then I've literally leveraged and worked with business mentors from then on in my life that have kind of coached me and navigated me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are those guys that you sought out, or did they come in contact with you and offer to help you out?
They were guys that by default I ended up getting involved with. The next one was Bob Workman, BSW Architects. So he walked into Walmart in 1982 and changed the way you and I and the rest of this world shops. He standardized construction. So Rogers O'Brien used to take him a year to get a Walmart built.
Yep.
He basically standardized the Walmart. The real estate was the variable. So I was involved in the Frankfurt Square development in Tulsa with him, $56 million development. And I was an investor, and we had 15 different partners. So I'm in Tulsa with him, and I'm late to the meeting. At that time in my life, I was entitled and built this company, thought I was on top of the world, and really I wasn't. And I remember walking in late, and I've got Schneider, the owner of Manhattan's, in there. He's one of our partners, Tim Witt, an author. Men I madly respected in the business world. I didn't respect them enough or myself enough to show up on time, right? So that was my first lesson. I didn't get that till later, but I got it. So Bob, I walk in, and Bob, I'm sitting there, and he goes, glad you could join us, and just kind of give me a bunch of crap, right? And I'm in front of everybody. So I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing? Like, just let me slide up in here and get away with it, right? He asked me what my purpose was, is where it started. And I said, I don't even know what you're talking about. And he said, what's your purpose? And he said, tell me it's not money. And I said, I guess I'm a whore. It's about money, right? And I was just being rude to him, trying to fire back and push him away. And he said, how much is enough? And I went to tell him, and he said, no, don't tell me. Write it down. I wrote it down on a little piece of paper, and he put it over on the windowsill, and he kept talking about the development. We were looking at plans, making decisions, and moving things. And at the end of the meeting, he opened that thing up, and he said, it's pretty arrogant coming from you. He said, you're the brokest guy in the room. You're 45 days from bankruptcy. You need to try $6 million in debt free. That's the number. And I said, you've lost your mind. I said, you got a Gulfstream out here. You've got all of this, and you telling me $6 million in debt free. And he said, start with a purpose, and then let that work its way out from there. He said, his two partners and him, our first mission for our first year in business was to pay off our mortgages. That was our purpose, just to stabilize our home lives. The second purpose was put all the kids' college funds in place. The third purpose, and then everything kept building every year. By doing that, we grew this mountain, right? We grew this mountain empire, this monstrous empire. And money is not necessarily the purpose now. Money or any one of those tasks. Now it's about choices. And he taught me about choices, and I talk about them a lot with people. And, for me, it's all about choices now. Do I want to eat at McDonald's? I can. Do I want to grab something out of the convenience store? I can do that too. Do I want to go to Nick and Sam's? I can do that too. Do I want to fly to Miami? I can do that too. Right? But it's about a choice. It doesn't mean I have to do anything.
Yeah.
So he just taught me a lot about money. And from that aspect, I've just simply took that to heart. Not that I learned then, but it did make a pendulum shift, because a year later I sold the company, and got out. And then for the first time I saw my son get on a school bus, right? So I became a father that I never was, and became the person I never was. And I had an opportunity to enjoy life for a minute before I went to the Middle East. So, it's one of those things where you've all got those marks in life that it's a pivot point where things happen and you shift, right? Whether that be from tragedy or whether that be from somebody simply guiding you in a direction. I never knew the impact that man had on me until later in life, right? He's no longer with us, and he's no longer with us, so I don't talk to him all the time. But, it just goes back down to those moments and were those people that truly changed the way you think about things and how you approach things. So, now I've got business mentors. I surround myself with killers in the business and in the business world, not necessarily mine or the restoration business, but just business in general, because there's a lot of friction, right? People think that, well, you're no longer in the war business. And I'm like, no, business is war. Don't get it twisted.
No doubt.
Whether you're slinging nails in shingles or restoration or whatever you're doing in business, somebody's trying to take it from you.
Yep.
Somebody's trying to undercut you. Somebody's trying to hurt you. You're fighting every day to survive. and they don't understand the dynamics of what the ownership truly has to go through in order to get it. I mean, it is an appetite that is rare, right, for the guys that truly push through it, because it gets old after a while. I get tired of dealing with it. I get tired of dealing with the BS. But at the end of the day, it's also a choice that I made. So accept it, right? And be careful what you wish for. You want to write your own check? Well, then write it. And I do this to a lot of people. I did it yesterday up at that little class in Minnesota. I said, if I were to give everybody in this room a blank sheet of paper and say, write the next chapter of your life, could you do it? Self-sustaining chapter in your life, could you do it? You know how many people can't do that?
A lot.
They don't know what they want.
Yeah.
They don't know where they're going.
Right.
They don't have a clue. So, I joke with them and I said, look, do you want me to be the author of your life, or do you want to do it? Because if I write it, you're opening yourself up for suggestion, and you may not like what I have to say.
Don't you think a lot of people don't want to take that step because we've talked about fear of failure or whatever, but also if it doesn't turn out, you have to own that. Well, this was my decision. These are the choices I made. Didn't work out like I thought they would. I just think there's a lot of that these days of just, man, if it doesn't work out, there better be someone I can gaslight or that I can blame for it not working out.
Well, I mean, look, those are the folks that have a contingency plan. Yeah. Right? I have a contingency plan in the war business. I don't have a contingency plan in business. Failure never enters my mindset. Solutions do. So, yes, to answer your question, yes, but I think it's all a mindset issue. 90% of the people that literally are in that victim mentality are not going to survive as an entrepreneur. They're not. Understand that people have wronged me in my life, right? People have stolen from me. People have everybody goes through that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I let people, if it happened to me, it's my fault.
Yep.
It is, as much as I hate it.
I put myself in the position to be harmed.
That's right.
Yep.
And it tells me, all right, what's the learn? What's the takeaway?
Exactly.
Takeaway is close that door, right? Makes you a little harder, yes. It makes you very situationally aware is what it does. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have to change you as an individual. It just has to change you from a standpoint of be more cognizant, right? Sometimes harm comes in the way of beauty, right? And I don't mean that from a female aspect. I mean that from a standpoint of, man, I'm here to help. People take me as they're very intimidated by my ability to give. Why would you do this? Why wouldn't I? Why would I do this or why would I do that? Why wouldn't I? You don't have to do that. I know I don't, but I can. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, it's a different mentality. So there's a threat level that comes with that as well. So I don't look at it that way, but that's the way people perceive it, which is kind of interesting. But, I look at it as it's not me doing harm. It's what were they going to do to me? Yeah. Or how did they perceive me? So, I don't know. Do I deliver it right? Probably not. Do I articulate it right? Hell no, right? I never do. Everybody's on me about being so brash all the time and just so you just throw it. I mean, you're just horrible sometimes. You just go in there like, oh, I wouldn't fucking do that. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do that.
What do they want? A politician? Everybody wants a politician till they get a politician.
That's funny. There was a big conversation inside my life about running for governor of the state. Yeah? Yeah. And I said, absolutely not. But I know a guy that would be perfect for it, right? Single, got no baggage, can't hurt the family. I mean, that's the threat, right? They start digging, and I said, I would never make it as a politician anyway. Yeah. I'd burn the house down. No, yeah. I'd burn it down.
Well, yeah, speaking of Yellowstone, same way old boy's probably going to burn it down if he gets the governorship up there, right? It's just, hey, it's my way or the highway.
Well, look, man, there's something to be said about your network is your net worth.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, and when you're playing a long strategic game, understanding now I've gotten better at this as I've gotten older. So being a politician is also part of the gig, right? And understanding that you need strategic and key relationships in certain markets. So, you don't necessarily want to go to war with everybody in the world. I don't. But my point is that, yeah, he's going to get what he wants. Why? Because failure's not an option. Yeah. Right? That is a family legacy as the movie script is written. Mm-hmm. He is not going to let it fall to anybody. If he has to protect it, limb life, it doesn't matter, right? He's going to protect it by all means necessary. So I respect the hell out of that. I mean, I do the same in my house. Mm-hmm. So if somebody attacks the family or somebody in the company, I literally put my hand out over the top of it and said, I got this. And then I'll engage it, and then I'll basically do what I need to do. But, at the end of the day, I will also spend every resource I have to protect those that I respect. and help those. I mean, people always want to come in and they want to take. If they would have just asked you for it, you probably would have given it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this, like you've mentioned respect many times. There's a way to do business, and there's a way not to do business. And there's the people who go scorched earth first or go run their mouth to everybody else. And then there's the people who do earn your respect because they come right to you and go, hey, this is happening. Maybe I misunderstood, but I thought we had this agreement. And then we work through it, and we get to the other side.
That's right.
And then there's the people who, hey, I haven't been successful. I haven't put the time in, but it's all your fault. And those are the people that maybe the door just needs to be closed on.
Sure. And those happen a lot.
Yeah, that's
more than
understatement.
Which I'm sure you've experienced all that too.
Yeah, it's
always your
really
fault.
fun. Yeah,
it's always your
blast.
fault. No, man, those are the pieces of the business that I don't like.
It's tough, man. I think I think a lot of what you're saying is so spot on. I think it's an interesting point of view to try to shift people's their focus from just the dollars to what they're going to do with the dollars, because it's the purpose. What you're going to do with the dollars is so much more important than the dollars. You can't achieve the purpose without the dollars. But I think, like you said, if all you're focused on is chasing the dollars, ends up that the dollars don't chase you if you chase the purpose.
No, the money comes.
It does.
It always has.
I feel like that's something people learn later on, though.
It is, but understand that 70% of U.S. wealth is made between male or female. It's made between 40 and 50. And then literally the next bracket is 50 to 60.
Is that correct?
That is true.
I did not
That is
know
a
that.
true fact. So you got to
So these 25-year-olds are like, I'm not there yet. I'm fucking up. I'm not doing it right. Man, just keep going.
Embrace it. You've got to go through the process. And there's a lot of wealth being made very quickly right now in life. And that's going to come back to hurt this, in my opinion. It's going to come back to hurt U.S. economy and U.S. business. Now, throw the Ukrainian situation in. We are now back in a Cold War environment. In my lifetime, your lifetime maybe, I don't foresee this changing. I see it getting worse before it gets better. With that being said, if China were to engage Taiwan, doesn't look like they're going to, but they may, who knows, it would drag us into something that we couldn't handle to a degree. And I mean this from an economy standpoint. You've got oil now at $150 a barrel, over 100.
Yep.
Right? The cost of goods, that bottle of water is about to become $10.
No doubt.
Right? The average American that's winning right now is simply not going to be winning in 12 months. That's a fact. That is not the way this works. This is not unless that entrepreneur shifts very quickly and understands the dynamics of what's going on, right? And stacking. In my world, it is about, hey, we don't need to slow down and be consistent. We need to scale through this, right? We scale through this compression. We don't constrict for a reason, right? You start creating more. So at that point, you're offsetting that cost of doing business. Last year, our cost of doing business went up 43%.
Wow.
43%.
Wow, that's staggering.
On the numbers we moved down the street. That's staggering.
That's unbelievable.
It's staggering. Wow. But the cost of goods. I mean, we move a lot of construction materials. Yeah. It's an issue. It's a real numbers issue for us. So at that point, all right, we need to offset that by volume, right? Because the carriers aren't paying for it. Let's be clear.
No doubt.
The retail space probably is a better application than the resto space. Yeah. I'm saying that the market supply and demand issues have created an opportunity to pivot, right? So you see a lot of guys that are stuck in certain markets, and you're watching compression happen, and they're not being able to identify the solution quickly enough, and that's going to come back to haunt them quickly, in my opinion. If we don't stabilize the situation in Russia real quick as a global community, this situation is going to compress to our economy something that that was cute, right? That was cute.
Oh, no, it's coming. It's coming fast. Decisions that were made 2 Januaries ago, like to shut down the Keystone, are decisions that are 100%. They just do not appear to have been wise decisions now. They didn't then either. Dependence on foreign resources seems very myopic to me. I'm no politician. I'm no expert on how to keep everybody happy. But from where I sit, just a regular old blue-collar dude, there sure are a lot of people getting fed at the top, and it's leaving a lot of other people out.
Well,
and
I
as
mean-
well as you've done,
Well, no, I mean,
you're not at the top.
No,
You know
I'm
what I'm
not.
saying?
I am at the bottom.
I mean, there is a top that we don't know who these people are, but they're all benefiting every time something bad happens. This
Well,
is a fact.
There's look, I've been in the agenda business for a good portion of my 40s, right?
That's a good way to put it.
And where I'm going with that is that, in the beginning, we look for the weapon of mass destruction. We were standing on it.
Remember the vial? Oh, we were standing.
We were standing on it. So it was oil.
Yeah.
People think that our currencies are backed by gold. They're backed by oil.
Yes, they are.
If oil goes sub 40, global economy will collapse. That's a fact, right? So you look at the reserves and you look at COVID supply and demand pre and post. You've got an issue where our reserves were overfilling to the point that nobody thought that oil would go negative in a Brent market. There's Brent and West Texas Intermediate. Now fast forward reverse back to my life. I literally tapped every single southern Iraqi oil field, which arguably at the time held 11% of the global reserve untapped. Right, I drilled the first well in that country with Neighbors Drilling. We took them into Iraq. Neighbors, the largest independent in the world. Right, so where I'm going with this is you've got 11% of the global untapped reserve, sweet, West Texas Intermediate, right, sweet crude, easy to refine. It doesn't cost a lot of money. Kurdistan, northern Iraq is heavy. It takes a lot of money. It's a heavier crude, full of different trash, as I call it. But you have to take that and look at it as, all right, well, here we have a sovereignty as Russia or in Iraq that literally has this kind of reserve. Fast forward to today, right? Eagleford Shell in Texas still produces more crude oil per day than the country of Iraq.
Crazy.
Now, strategic. Right? Iraq had all that oil. They had one export pipeline. And literally, ExxonMobil came in and bought West Colonel 1 from SOC, South Oil Company, and then shut off the pipeline. It was not about getting the oil. It was about controlling it to the market. So now you fast forward to COVID, and you fast forward to our reserves are literally overfilling. We have no place to store, right? Exploration shut down, right? Wells are everywhere. We don't have any place to put the oil, so stop pumping. Right? Now you get into this gas price and all this global compression. Demand has not increased. Demand has not increased. It's only recently increased. Since about December-ish, it started really kind of ramping up. Demand has not hit, to my knowledge, has not hit the pre-COVID situation. Here's my point. Where's all that oil?
Yeah.
Right? I know the oil business fairly well from a dumb tax math side. It doesn't make any sense to me. Right? We should not be paying anything like this at the fuel pump. Nothing, especially here in Texas. But you fast forward to the global. Now, I think the other night the president said that they just released $60 billion from the global reserve. Mm-hmm. That's cute. Yeah. That's cute.
Yeah.
So, it's what is that going to do for us? It's going to move that needle about 1 cent. 1 cent. 2 cents maybe. They've allowed inflation to literally outpace earnings. Hasn't done this since the 70s.
I think that's a very key word, allow.
Allowed.
Because it's definitely been allowed, if not perpetuated.
Yes.
And again, dumb blue collar guy, it's just to increase everyone's dependence on the man.
Well, the 1%ers are the 1%ers. Yeah. Those are the guys that make the money.
And they'll always, and the decisions.
They control those decisions.
It would seem.
Well, I mean, but when they make decisions, I mean, I could go back to the Iraq war and say, why did we invade? And this conversation yesterday about, Saddam and although Saddam was absolutely an atrocity, people don't understand why he truly invaded Kuwait. Well, look, he protected Kuwait from the Iranians, right? And they owed him $8 billion and he didn't pay. If I was Saddam, I'd have done the same thing. But
nobody talks about that though.
No, they don't. They want you to understand what they want you to understand.
Supervillain, yeah. This guy.
Yeah,
his sons are horrible.
He was all the above, right? He was an absolute prick. But did he need to be in power? No. But we put him there.
Yeah.
We as a sovereignty put him there.
Right.
We put Fidel Castro there. I mean, we can run around the world and we can literally pick out dictators that we end up picking a fight with. Look, they call this killing a dog in a road. Sometimes you have to create the optics. War is a business. And if you think it's not, you're confused, right? It is a massive business, the largest business on the planet. The government is spending billions of dollars. When I got to Iraq, it was $22 billion a month. They were paying us in cash.
Crazy, man.
That's what you as a taxpayer were paying in '07, August of '07. I think that was Iraq. Afghanistan together, but 22B regardless. Iraq was all cash. When you landed, if you flew Millair, you landed, you hit Sather, I mean, pallets of cash as far as you can see.
That's insane.
If you needed money, you went to the Liberty Finance office and you showed them a contract, wrote them a U.S. check, and they gave you cash. You carried it outside in your backpack. That's how that worked.
Wow.
That's how it worked. So you're literally hauling around millions all the time.
Wow.
That's how that worked. You look like a bunch of drug deals going down out there in the streets of Baghdad.
It's crazy.
But they didn't have they had no banking infrastructure. Right. They had no nothing. So that's the only way the economy would move. So you're going to get to another place like that over there, right? Watch Eastern Europe. Watch what's going on right now, and let's see how far this goes, right? But, I mean, I will say this. If Putin was ever playing poker, he screwed this up in a bad way, right? He should have walked through the Ukraine and waxed it in 48 hours.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused why he went in there with half measures to a degree.
Well, I think they called his bluff.
Yeah.
They called his bluff, and he had no choice.
He had but he went in so soft, though.
Well, they said he's only using 10% of his forces right now, but he looks horrible. And
really
quite
does.
frankly,
Looks
when he activated and he put his nukes on high alert, right, that's just like a bully on the China cabinet just saying, hey, if I can't win, I'm just going to blow you up.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, look, at the end of the day, they're very misorganized. They're very misdirected. There's no leadership. I mean, it's a shit show. And they send in a hit squad to kill the president, and they basically wax them too. I mean, if that's the best you got, then what are we talking about?
Yeah, he's kind of showing his ass to the world too, because I think there's a lot of people who probably think that their operations over there are fairly tight and are a pretty major threat, and now we're seeing that maybe that's not true.
I was one of them. I was to the standpoint where I know they're extremely liquid, right? I know at some point I've done business with Lukoil. I've done business with Gazprom. I understand the dynamics of the investment side of oil and gas and what drives their economy. And quite frankly, I always chose there's two people in this world, two sovereignties I would never want to screw with. The Russians being one and the Chinese being the second. China's more of a threat because of what they own in our sovereign debt and our trade. They don't have to nuke us. They don't even have to fire a bullet to us. Just cut us off.
Yeah, or call some notes. Yeah,
that would suck.
Big time. I mean,
we're printing money right now faster than the printer can push it out.
Yeah, what do they say that 40% of the currency in circulation right now has been printed since the middle of 2020?
Yeah, I mean, it's alarming.
I mean, that's
meaning your kids, your great grandkids are going to be paying this dumb tax.
No doubt.
You talk about dumb tax.
What do you think about in the this discussion just about economic upheaval all over the world? What are your thoughts on crypto?
It's interesting, man. I've been in crypto since '09.
Yeah.
So I
know we talked about that when I came to your shop for a minute.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
I've been around that space for a minute, and what I think about crypto is look, if you're playing the long game, just ride it. I mean, understand the crypto that we have involved. I've got $25,000 at risk. Let's dumb that down to what the real risk is. That's how much money was put into crypto and in Bitcoin in 2009, right? So how much money do I actually have now?
Yeah, I mean, however much you can sell your holdings for today.
You can't even monetize that kind of wallet.
Yeah,
you can't. But, I mean, I want to be very clear about this because it'll go out. But I do not have that much anymore. I want to be clear about that because that's how we paid people. We used a different mechanism to hire different people to do different things, and that's how we paid them. But to be real clear, we do have holdings in crypto. I don't understand the cyber side. I don't understand NFTs.
Those are weird.
Boy, had dinner with a mutual friend, and then another mutual friend that actually had $250,000 stolen from him.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, "What in the hell?"
Yeah.
Like, you need to do this, and I'm like, "No, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I can't go bulldoze it." Right. I mean, these guys are smarter than I am in the technology space, so. I don't play with things that I don't understand. Mm-hmm. I just don't. I won't take the risk. Now I'll take the risk with somebody that does, but it's not me. I'm not going to lead that fight in because I don't know it. I'm going to shut up and put my hands down.
Yeah.
And kind of be subservient. But look, I think that crypto long term, I would be very surprised to see it. I think it has massive value on both sides of the chain, both sides of the block. But I don't think that at the end of the day, cash is, it's almost worthless today. However, it's still the USD is still the most powerful monetary instrument on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So, keeping yourself in check, whether it be I would never put all my eggs in one basket. I guess that's probably a better way to put it.
Sure.
I mean, because you're watching the volatility right now in the market, whether that be in foreign currency or whether that be in USD or whether that be in crypto. I mean, it's a very diverse situation. There's one place that it literally has scaled for us has been in the real estate market. I mean, I keep going back to the trusted commodity of what holds probably 90% of the U.S. wealth, and that's real estate.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, if you watch the ebb and flow of real estate over the last 20 years and you watch what's happened over the last 2 years, specifically here in Dallas, and then the rest of the market, if you search for a house in Miami, they're crazy. You search for a house in certain markets, it's nuts. They're bidding on things here. I mean, that's insane to me.
It is.
But if you look at the market, they're saying that Dallas is going to be larger than Chicago in 10 years. Right. So where's all my investment
30 million,
going?
right? Something like that.
All of my money's coming to Dallas.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to buy everything in sight that I can get my hands on. And we're strategically waiting for the economy to kind of slow down a little bit to grab some value in that. I do think things are a little hyperinflated, but I don't foresee the hyperinflation slowing down. I don't foresee the value sliding. I know the Feds last year pulled $1.4 trillion out of the home loan side to basically condition supply and demand issues, and that didn't slow the market down.
No.
The cash buyers, where's the money coming from? People are walking in 500, 700 million. I mean, they're just throwing money around like it's water.
They are.
And I'm like, where's all this money coming from? That's not normal.
No.
So, at some point that well's going to dry. It always does. And I hedged a bet that it would happen for Q4 of last year, lost that bet. Or I hedged a massive bet on that. And, it's the dumb tax is learning, right? So they're saying now, I mean, on my PE side, they're saying that, hey, this might have happened COVID, right? We had a small recession, but not a depression. It may be 7 to 12 before we do this again, right? The economy may continue to drive. Now, inflation jumps into the conversation. That may slow things down tremendously.
Yeah, that's a big bump in the road, no doubt about it.
Well, when you look at the global economy or the U.S. economy, it's still a fact. I think 65,000 is the number in Dallas, but as a nation, the average American makes $57,000 a year. Let that sink in.
Man.
Google it. Don't take my word for it. It's true fact. I think Dallas is 65 as a region a year, right? We spent $100,000 on jet fuel last month.
Wow.
So I'm putting it in perspective, not to sound like a jackass. I'm saying that those are the masses. That's what fuels this economy.
Right.
If you hurt them, right, I promise you, you and I are back there going, damn, like this is getting tough.
Hey man, it costs my guys more to get to a job site than it ever has.
Sure,
And it's not,
yeah.
it's not like, it's not like there's, like you said, a bottomless resource well to draw from to just pay for all these increases, and they just keep going up, and we're looking around going, who's going to pay for this?
Well,
Can't start that job because the material we were going to use went up 30% in 3 weeks or whatever.
It's supply and demand.
Yeah.
And it's the butterfly effect. I mean, if you know anything about that,
Yeah.
I mean, and most people I say that, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? You're watching it happen right now.
Yeah.
It's the butterfly effect. It's cause and effect. There's an action and now there's a reaction. So, at the end of the day, most of the folks, and look, if I'm in the supply line business, I'm laughing right now.
No doubt.
No, I'm laughing. And, I almost hedged a massive bet in the supply line business.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the business to be in.
Right now.
Yeah.
But there's some opportunity in that space, and I think that from the outside looking in, there's an interesting dynamic because yes, the costs are going up. Petroleum-based products, comp shingles, oil's going up, so the cost of doing business is going up for everybody from the manufacturer on. But when you have the opportunity to go in and buy volume, I think that's where things are going to change.
No doubt.
Because you're going to walk in, you're going to guarantee X million. Say, all right, I need a million square of weatherwood. I need a million square of that. And that's something that's kind of been in a conversation piece in my head saying, you know what, we're not even in that space.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that there's an opportunity here. And I hate being an opportunist, but I'm saying there's another way to control the supply line, and that's own it, right? That's literally own it from cradle to grave. fair and equitable business is not a hard decision to make.
Right.
Because if we're doing business and I'm your supplier and I'm gouging you all day long, you couldn't tell me that these manufacturers are making a mint, because they are. They're private equity held.
Yes, they are.
This is not twisted.
No.
These guys on Wall Street or in New York.
They ain't hurting.
No, they're not. And their bonuses aren't hurting either.
Nope.
So at the end of the day, who are they passing that to? The consumer. You're a consumer, and then basically you're taking it to your consumer. Then let's go back to who actually pays the bill, which is the carrier. The carriers are tired of this stuff. So I look at it and saying, look, man, there's a way to come in here and supply every French fry to McDonald's and make X off of each French fry over the next 100 years versus coming in here and saying, I'm going to make $5 off the Big Mac.
Right.
And there's a way to build this in to where, in my opinion, if I'm in SRS's shoes, or if I'm in ABS or ABC shoes, or Beacon or anybody else, they would probably say that I'm absolutely crazy. I am not. I would be very careful about my business model.
Yeah.
Because there's some boys in the business that absolutely get tired of playing with shit.
Yep.
So at some point,
True story.
somebody, they're all going to get together and they're going to say, you know what?
Yep.
We can buy more than they can collectively.
Yes.
And then they're going to grab outside sources.
Yes.
And they're going to come in there and they're going to do it.
Everybody knows people. People, the powers that be don't realize that often enough.
No, they don't.
You know, the problem is, like we talked about right at the beginning, divide and conquer. It works so well. And if people could just get past the, ooh, you stepped on my ego's toes, and let's work together instead, boy, the positive damage that we could do would be pretty
would be
significant.
massive. Do you realize and I'll just throw this at you, if you actually did this, right? You're in the business. If you started a co-op and started buying the material as a co-op from the manufacturer, disregard the distributor.
Yes.
You'd go to war with them. But I promise you, if you had enough people buying in that co-op, right, you would be buying at a better rate and a better value. The only issue you'd have is distribution.
Distribution.
That's a big key.
Yep.
Right?
We can solve that.
That can also be solved.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They love to sell on this, and I am not shooting at them because I've got great relationships in every one of them. What I am saying is that you get very antiquated in the business world, and they start looking at bottom line. They get comfortable with the numbers. If we're winning all the time, that tells me we're doing something wrong. Right? When we're winning massively, that means that we've either hurt somebody, i.e. the carrier, or we've hurt a client, or we've hurt a vendor, or something is not right. Right?
Everyone's not happy if only one party in the business chain is winning every time.
That is not sustainable.
No.
It is not. So at the end of the day, I always brake check this company by saying, what are we doing wrong? How did we get here? You've missed something. Something's not right. So my point to this is that I'm watching the supply lines, literally in the distribution lines, build out. I mean, look, let's break this down. All they are is a storefront and a hub.
Yeah.
So you could literally take a concept and go to the Amazon and be the Amazon of the material business and bypass everybody. And everybody says, oh, you can't do that. Well, yeah, so Walmart didn't think Amazon was a threat either. Or Uber, Yellow Cab, Lyft. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Blockbuster didn't see Netflix coming, and Blockbuster was presented those options for years before.
And turned it down.
No, that'll never happen. No, now it's insanity.
It is. Well, look at Amazon.
Yeah, you got the wheels
50%.
spinning. I've thought of this before. It just would take a lot. That'd take a lot of legwork. It's doable. It's 100% doable.
100% doable.
Yeah.
Well, I think it wouldn't take as much legwork as you can. It comes down to capital.
Yeah, I think it comes down to capital and maybe somebody with a big enough platform that can reach enough people that can get everyone on the same page.
Well, then I'll go back to the conference that we were just at, and how many people actually come to that. Yeah. In the change in the business that needs to happen in the industry. Look, don't get it twisted. Private equity is making a run into this market for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? For a reason. Those guys are not stupid. No. Some of them are, but some of them aren't. Most of them are not. There's some private equity firms playing in this space that I'm not real sure how they got in the private equity space.
Yeah, it's weird. There's businesses being purchased
for big numbers
that I don't and I'm just like, did you get the right books when you audited? Because I doubt it.
most people don't understand that if you're selling your business, and you misrepresent that business, and truly, it is on the private equity firm to do their due diligence. But if they don't do that, and there's some situations in the industry right now where some misrepresentation happened.
Yeah.
Right. And where I'm going with this is that, man, whose fault is it? It goes back to that conversation. If somebody steals from me, that's probably because I left the door open.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, that's a dumb tax that you just got to pay. But the reality is there's also a lot of big firms there's a lot of money floating around this right now. And that's for a reason. Right. In my opinion, the industry will change dramatically in 5 years, where it'll be conglomerates coming in and basically grabbing stuff. So when you see the likes,
Do you see a big shift to MRPs then, if they do that, to try to standardize everything?
I don't think MRPs are sustainable. I mean, Louisiana just outlawed them.
Right.
So I think Texas just needs to wake up and get behind it. They need to implement the contracting laws. They need to. They're so damn slow down there in Austin, man.
Well, that legislature's just got. They're just eating out of the palms of the carrier's hands. So it's.
Well, but they need to goat rope. When you have 90, I was told, I don't know this to be fact, I was told there were 9,600 roofers in Dallas now, registered roofers. I don't have a clue. I
heard like 7850 or something.
I was told that at Winter Storm.
Were you?
Yeah, and I was like, well, that makes about perfect sense.
Yeah,
every chuck in a truck, but the barrier to entry again is very low. Right, but they're not. They're basically hurting the valid businesses that are out there doing what they need to do, carrying the right insurance, all the stuff that comes along with the cost of doing business. But that's a conversation for later. But if Austin would change that, you know what it takes to get your GC in Florida?
It's
commercial.
Yeah, it's very rigorous.
Look,
it's not easy in Colorado either.
No, nor is it easy. And we have a KB1 in Arizona. I mean, you look at the states that it takes, and we don't actuate in some of these states. Right, until we have a situation with a client. So my point is we carry all of that general overhead cost, right? You can't go into these states. You go to Florida and operate without a license, good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will when they come to check you on the site and the workforce side is carrying sidearms, that should tell you something.
Yeah, I'd say
they're not playing around. They're not playing with you.
No doubt.
So the flip side is now Florida's a little bit dry. Right, it's getting very tough down there because everybody has beat the brakes off the carriers in the industry. People don't realize that the carriers are not the evil empire. There's a couple of them that are. I did business with warlords all over the world. I needed them as much as they needed me, and so did the U.S. government. Needed them both. Right. The reality was they couldn't engage them. I could. Where I'm going with this is that not that I'm going to use the carriers in the same statement as I use a warlord.
I feel you.
Right? We need them as much as they need us, and they need us as much as we need them. That's the reality. But then you throw the brokers in the mix. The brokers are the guys that are out there retailing the policies for the clients. These brokers are losing retention because the carriers aren't paying. These brokers need you now more than you ever knew, right? They need that retention, but they're not getting it because the carriers aren't paying. My point to you is that no, there's a big change coming.
Well, it's a weird deal. Like you said about 10 minutes ago, everybody in the business chain has to win for that chain to remain unbroken.
That's right.
And if the only people suffering are the brokers, the agents losing business, the homeowners not getting their shit put back together properly, the contractors with an AR that would stun a mastodon, most of us, because getting anything on time's just insanity. I hope a change is coming. I hope it's positive, and I hope it's to the betterment of the industry, not just a few, and most especially to all those little old ladies who we try to help, those of us who do a lot of residential, who just get shoved aside, disregarded, disrespected, and dismissed all the time, everywhere. It's insane, man. You've heard the 10 stories I could tell you 1,000 times of 90-year-old widows who State Farm is just summarily dismissed, and it's just wrong. It's wrong.
It's interesting because we were renewing our homeowner policy, and I made this comment because I don't know if you're familiar with Vault, but I'm a big fan of Vault and that carrier. But the flip side comes down to quality doesn't cost more. Right, and when you get to make a decision on how you spend your money, you want to change something. Stop buying it, right? If you're buying that water and it tastes like crap, then stop buying it. Don't buy it because the bottle's cool.
Yeah,
right. I don't
vote with your dollars.
That's right. Vote with your dollars. Yeah. It literally, I promise you, the guys on Wall Street, that are back here managing all of this crap, I promise you they're going to sit back there and watch the bottom line start doing this.
Yeah.
And they're going to go, oh, wait.
We better make our water taste better.
That's right. We better do something.
That's the beauty of capitalism, though.
Man.
Improve or die. If you're the first to come up with something, that's awesome. But someone's going to look at what you're doing, and they're going to reverse engineer it. They're going to make it better. You've used the term add value a couple of times, which is that's a very hot term. Gurus use it a lot. Add value, bring value. What does that mean to you, especially in business?
In business, that means that for me, it's just like you have a truck, right? You have friends that don't have a truck, right? So it's called a relationship. So it starts with my wife. Either I'm taking care of her or somebody else will, right? So for me, and that's not a sexual or financial, that is an emotional, just a relationship.
Yep.
So I use that also in the business world. Do I bring value to the relationship? If I don't, then I don't. And you can tell by the bottom line numbers because we're in the service business, so we're not doing a lot of service, right? So do you bring value to a relationship or not? Yes or no? If you don't, that means you're taking crap away, right? You're not giving back.
There's really no middle ground.
There is no.
You're either adding or you're taking away.
It's that simple.
It's a lot like fitness. Your muscles start to atrophy within 48 hours. You're either building them
or you're not.
Or they're depleting.
That's right.
It's just so powerful, right? If you don't come to the table willing to put something in the bucket, and all you're doing is ladling out.
Well, people ask all the time. They're like, "Why do you spend so much time and money with your relationships?" And I said, "Because they matter."
Well, is that how you grew, Tad,
100%.
from 0 to 38 billion
in managed assets? Yes, that 100%.
And was the first client that you signed, was that a struggle? Was that a relationship based?
They called me.
Yeah.
I didn't call them, and I didn't even realize what I was doing when I did it. So when the conversation happened, it was a gentleman that I met at the Petroleum Club, and I was a part of that. I got voted in or got sponsored into that club from another gentleman that I know here in Dallas that's very prominent when I was in the Middle East. And long story short, a lot of these relationships came from there. All of these guys have massive real estate holdings. So he called me because he couldn't find anybody else to go do it.
Really?
Yeah. And
so once again, an opportunity that no one else is capitalizing on that you jumped on.
That I jumped on, and I just basically went out and engaged it, and that's where it came from. And
then he knows people.
Well, then it just kind of went viral from there.
Yeah. And you added value. You did what you said what you were going to do, and you probably did what you said you were going to do.
Absolutely.
And it's really that simple.
It is that
simple.
simple.
They just start telling people. Over drinks or at other petroleum club events or just
the network.
Christmas parties or whatever.
That eclectic group of money that owns real estate. I don't care if it's a private trust or a family trust, a REIT, an investment firm, they all run in the same circle.
They sure do.
They all talk to each other. So when you have one billionaire that's over here going, hey, you should call these guys in a pinch because nobody wants to deal with it, it just becomes a very interesting program. And then our MSA program is built around a program that I built for DOD. And then we just morphed it back to PNC, to real estate. So at that point, all we're doing is defending our client's position on policy compliance. That's it. And then that runs cost incurred. And then at that point, like we have $11 billion in assets from North Miami Beach to Miami, to include Marco and Naples, right? Mainly Naples. But, our program basically takes their buildings offline if they're 80% probability to get hit, meaning that we provide the assets to back up those buildings, meaning the backup generation, if they don't have it, we take their building off the power grid. And we've learned by doing this in the short time we've been in the business that reduces the damage to the building. And we're literally standing by. Everybody says, oh, don't ride it out. Look, man, there's a bunch of guys on my team that have literally been through hell in a handbasket. They live for this shit because it's just like being in the middle of something else. They actually slow down in the middle of massive compression, and it gets very methodical. So whether they're operators, and there's quite a few of those, and then you just get to guys in the space that just miss that adrenaline rush. Mm-hmm. I don't want to lose anybody, right? But we literally will ride our assets out in the middle of a disaster. So, we did it last year in Ida by default. I mean, my doctor said, do not let him leave. So my wife was like, okay, well, you're taking Joe. And excuse me, I had Mark, our COO, and, we literally left New Orleans thinking the storm was projected to go westerly, right? Now we found our ass right in the middle of it, right in the eye wall, 158 mile an hour winds. And I was driving one of our lifted Suburbans, and we were going around to Gonzales because that's where we were basing our assets at, between the helicopter and the planes coming in and out and what have you. And we got caught in the middle of this thing. And I remember on this overpass, it was 158. I had it in four-wheel low. Damn. And the back of the Suburban was like lifting, chattering. Wow. So I pull up next to this fence in case I go off this overpass, that at least the fence will catch me, right? At least to give us an opportunity. And I'm creeping down the back of this thing, and I get underneath the bridge during the eye wall. And I look at Joe and Mark, and I said, we'll never do this again. I apologize for putting you at risk. We will never do this again. It'll be the last time, so enjoy it, right? Damn. Destroyed a Suburban in the process. I mean, destroyed this thing. Wow. Destroyed it. So it was a learning experience for us, but it also, was an opportunity for me to see something that otherwise I hadn't ridden out. And quite frankly, I mean, we can go through all the bombings in the world. Natural disaster is something completely different because Mother Nature has no pause. No doubt. It has no pause. It doesn't get off the gas.
She's always
hostile.
Yeah, she's all gas, no brakes, all the time.
All the time.
Something's going down.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Man, I really appreciate you taking the time. Really
Absolutely.
do. Really enjoyed it. 2 hours, crazy.
Flew by.
I appreciate your time
Absolutely,
and your friendship.
Man. Likewise.
And, thanks for coming and adding value today. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That was awesome. I hope you enjoyed it. Very cool of TW to take time out of his extremely busy schedule to come sit down with us here for 2 hours and walk us through his life story, his take on entrepreneurship, building culture, building teams. You watched the podcast, you know how awesome it was. I hope you enjoyed it. I like doing them. Drop a comment below if you'd like. You can always hit me on Instagram at Jess from the Northwest. If you want to work together, email me live at autographconstruction.com. And we'll see you guys at the next podcast.